We're here live in our studio in St. Paul's, and already we've had our thoughts triggered by a panel all about disruption. Well, there's a lot of disruption in these face-to-face events, in a good way, because these events are about connection. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back, then welcome back. We've got so many favourite guests from past years actually with us here in London today, so welcome to them as well. By the way, our hashtag EBL2025, we'd love you to share your reflections, because maybe that gets onto the radar of someone who could do with that insight or maybe that lift in their business journey. So thank you very much for sharing with us. We've got lots to come over 2 very busy days indeed, including on international expansion, including a look behind the scenes of our tech stack. What are we actually using and how does it all fit together? And then crucially, and this was something I mentioned right at the start of our day, when we want to make our companies more inclusive, how do we do that in practice? And is there a sense that these hugely important topics are being pushed down the agenda in what is frankly a time when they ought to be top of our priority list? So most of all, I want your questions on this. So you can do that here live in the studio, but online as well. Tell us what's on your mind. Tell us what you want us to ask our guests. We're so fortunate with our speaker lineup, and this next guest is no exception. They are a globally recognized AI expert, a futurist, and they're a tech industry leader with over 30 years of experience driving technology innovation. So let's just step back and think about that global point. Our next guest, Andrew Grill, has been recognized as one of the world's top 10 futurists. He is a very regular commentator on BBC News and television, so you will probably recognize him, particularly on the transformative effect of artificial intelligence. So someone who really can get us thinking. And why I'm deliberately making a point of why we're pleased to have him in the studio, he's delivered over 600 keynotes in 50 different countries around the world. I personally recommend to you his book and podcast of the same name, Digitally Curious. And it has really rather nicely teed up his chosen theme for some opening thoughts for us today, the power and the peril of AI and deepfake. So stand by and get ready to welcome the brilliant Andrew Grill.
I want to ask you all one simple question. Are you digitally curious? Now you might say, of course I am, Andrew. Come here today, I've got the latest smartphone. But we're going to find out right now in this room, online, how digitally curious you are. Can I get you all to stand up, please? What's going to happen next? I'm going to ask you 6 simple questions. And if you're doing what's on the screen, you can stay standing. If not, you can resume your seat. However, if what's on the screen a bit later on is something you are doing, you can stand back up again. Okay, let's see how digitally curious this room is. An easy first question. Stay standing if you've Googled yourself lately. Okay, we've got some non-Googlers, that's okay, right? Got a good digitally curious room that's left. Okay, question 2. Stay standing or stand back up again if you've listened to a podcast this week. Oh, thank you. Some more podcasts is fantastic. Lots to choose from. Next one's an interesting one. Stay standing or stand up if you bank with an app-only bank, like a Monzo N26. Okay, we've got a really curious room. That's fantastic. The next one is really important. 3 more to go. Stay standing or stand up if you've got 2-factor turned on for everything. LinkedIn, Gmail, Facebook. Okay. Those of you sitting down, you are going to get hacked. And I'll explain why in a little moment. All right, next one's actually very, very relevant today. Stay standing or stand up if you've used ChatGPT. That's an obvious one, but stay standing if you use it every day. That's what I expect. I've done that about 100 times in the last 2 years, and the response is the same. We haven't yet worked out how to integrate these tools into our daily life. So after today, I hope you'll have some tips. Final question to see how digitally curious this room is. Who's bought some crypto? Not bad. Give yourselves a round of applause. A very digitally curious audience. Now, those 6 things are really easy to do. So if you're not doing some of those, I would ask you, why are you not doing some of those things? They're so simple to do. I have been curious from a very young age. Around age 6, I was playing with these 101 electronic kits, trying to build burglar alarms and shortwave radios, and I've always wondered how things work. And this was my first computer. Anyone remember this? The dear old Sinclair ZX80. A few weeks ago, I was at the Science Museum and I saw it behind a glass case. Show of hands, who here was born after 1983? Okay, I have been online longer than you've been alive. Back in 1983, I was dialing up, remember that noise? Dialing up and hoping the internet would connect. Now, I knew back in 1983 that I was hooked on this online thing because my father had to get a second phone line. Now, I feel very at home in this audience because I come from a small business family. This is my father, Ron. We think in around 1970 in his office there. Now, for those of you born after 1983, these things there, they're called telephones, and we had 2 of them, and he's punching information into a calculator. So that's what the office desk looked like back in 1970. So I've done a bunch of stuff in the small business area. I've run startups. I've also worked for large organizations like IBM. And I'm so curious that last year I published my first book called Digitally Curious. And it is basically designed to help people overcome those technical barriers and be more curious. And hopefully you'll be more curious today. But I really think that the future belongs to the curious. If you stay curious, you will actually be able to see the future like I can. But I think part of the problem with all this AI stuff is we've seen 10 years innovation in just 2. Even I can't keep up. Every day I'm reading about a new tool, a new way of doing things. Some of the things I'm showing you this morning have actually only been around and available since the beginning of this year. Another show of hands, where is everyone on the AI journey? Who here would be the starters? You're still starting out, okay, a few there. Intermediate, yeah, and who's integrated this fully into your business? Really impressed. That's really impressed. So you might be able to teach me some things as well. So when we talk about AI, people go, it's the latest fad. It's actually been around since 1950. We need to go back to Dr. Alan Turing, who basically wrote a research paper, and the first line of his paper asked the question, can machines think? And I think 75 years later, we know the answer to that question. The word AI, or the phrase AI, has been used since 1956. John McCarthy had a 6-week workshop in America back then looking at that. And if we fast forward to why everyone's excited about AI, it's all about generative AI. Now, for the pub quiz, who knows what the GPT in ChatGPT stands for? It stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So there's the pub quiz for you next week. Generative because it generates something from existing data. Pre-trained because it's learnt on things like the internet. And transformer because it can make new things and transform things and look at where sentence structure is. And back in 2017, some very smart people at Google wrote a paper called Attention is All You Need. They worked out how to look at information and see how we can actually focus on there and make new things out of what's already there. And often as a futurist, people ask me, Andrew, how does ChatGPT actually work? Now, for those in the audience that have integrated this, you're going to say, Andrew, what you're going to say next is massively simplified, deliberately so. How ChatGPT and other systems work is they predict the next word in a sentence. And I actually asked ChatGPT if that's how they work, and it agreed with me. Let's say I asked you, who was the first person to land on the moon? You'd all yell out, it's Neil Armstrong. ChatGPT and others will give you the same answer, but it doesn't know if that's right. Mathematically, it knows that the most probable next 2 words are Neil and Armstrong. So that's why you should check your work, and that's why at the moment it's not really resembling the way humans think in a natural way. But what I would like you to have from my session this morning and the panel that follows is a few aha moments. When I give these talks, people grab me afterwards and say, I didn't know that AI could do that. Let me give you a simple example. A friend of mine was having a drink with her girlfriend in a pub. My friend's AI savvy. The girlfriend is a school teacher. And she said, look, I can't stay for that second drink. I've got to do the lesson plan for the kids tomorrow. And my AI friend said, no. We're going to put your lesson plan requirements into ChatGPT. And lo and behold, aha moment, it prepared a lesson plan. The school teacher is now, I didn't know AI could do that. So for those of you that are starting out, I would encourage you to start playing with these tools. Start asking it questions. The other day I was asked something I didn't know the answer to, and live on stage I said, I'm going to ask my AI. It's okay to use the tools around you. Who remembers Where's Wally? English audience, English author, back in the late 80s, early 90s. I love these books, flipping through them. And I thought to myself, I wonder if AI can find Wally. So I used my favourite tool, Perplexity. I literally uploaded the picture and I said, find Wally in this picture. I didn't tell it was a children's book. I didn't say what or who Wally was, but he found Wally. So imagine that this scene is your business, full of information and noise and things are going on, and you want to find Wally. You want to find that gold in the information. So if AI can find Wally from a kid's book, imagine what it can do to find data for your business, or data on your competitors, or data to help you make better decisions. So how should we be using AI? And I get asked this question whether it's a small and medium audience or a large corporate. I think there are three areas that you should think about initially. First of all is new opportunities. How do you grow revenue? How do you look at what competitors are doing? How do you do market research when you just haven't got 5 hours to do that? It'll help you be more competitive. It'll also help you make better decisions, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And finally, I want you to use it to empower your talent, because everyone now gets an AI assistant. And imagine if everyone has that assistant you can offload things to, you can be much more efficient and be more effective. You see, AI won't replace people. People who use AI will replace people who don't. And all of you in the room today, after my talk, hopefully will be more comfortable using these tools, and you will be irreplaceable. You'll have this always-on company expert, someone who knows everything about your company. And that's where I think AI is going. Like I said, 10 years of innovation in just 2. It will fundamentally change how we do work. It will fundamentally change how we make decisions and get work done. I think in 2025, we actually need to put AI on the org chart. Let's overtly say we all have this assistant available now. Let's put it on the org chart. And if it's there, we need to work out how to use it. It's there 24/7, and there are ways you can use it in your business in specific ways. So what are other people doing with AI? You've got a number of people in the audience that are already integrating it. That will be a good discussion over coffee. But I want to actually look at, I'm deliberately going to start with a large company, even though we're in a small and medium audience. Everyone knows about Amazon. And I was very fortunate 2 years ago, I was on stage with Werner Vogels, who is the CTO of Amazon. And he put this slide up and he said, I don't know what the fuss about AI is. We've been using AI in our business for 25 years. Look at the purple headings. These are the main areas of Amazon's business, and they use AI everywhere. I would imagine that in your business, there are copies of these as well. You are doing these things in your business. So why not think about using AI in those areas? The second company I want to look at is Dell. I've been doing a lot with Dell. I'm one of their brand ambassadors, and last November, I was in the front row of a talk where their CTO, John Rosie, was talking about how Dell is using AI. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
What makes your organization special? What is it about your company that differentiates you? Because the purpose of AI is to give you an advantage. At Dell, we went through that exercise, and it's pretty obvious. We picked 4 things that make us special: our global supply chain, our global service organization, our global sales capability, and our global engineering capability. If any of those 4 get better in a material way, I win. In our sales activity, we know that our sales force is a powerful entity. It's the biggest enterprise sales force in the world. They have great effectiveness when they're in front of customers. We then did the process analysis and found that 40% of their time is preparing to get in front of customers. That is not valuable. And it turns out the problem in there was not they're doing something wrong, it's just they're navigating hundreds of sources of content, and they spend all kinds of time finding information and organizing it before they come and talk to you. Sounds like a very good Gen AI use case, and so we are doing that. But imagine if every salesperson in Dell could be in front of customers 30% more. Material impact, I will make more money, I will win in the market, I will be successful. So that's the first step. Know what problem you are solving and make sure it aligns to your business and it's specific enough that you can do something with AI to it.
Know what problem you are solving. I come across so many companies that are saying, we are doing AI, and that is translated as, well, what does that mean? But what makes you special? And what about, as John said, if you could actually make your sales force 30% more efficient? So start with the easy wins where you can actually use AI to empower your business in a really positive way. I want to look at 3 more relevant SME examples. I'm going to look at the boutique that actually increased sales by 30% because they use personalised recommendation. They use an AI tool to look at what people are buying on the website and what they're searching for, and were able to provide better recommendations. Or the coffee shop, their problem was team management. They weren't able to effectively make sure they had the right amount of people there at the right time. So with AI scheduling, they put labour costs down by 15% and customer wait times were down by 20% just by using AI. And the e-commerce store, they were overrun with basic questions from clients, and so they implemented an AI chatbot. Now, I'm sure if you played with chatbots a few years ago, they were quite clunky, and you had to program them and anticipate what customers would say. On Monday, I set myself a task. I was in front of a room full of food and beverage managers from luxury hotels here in London, including people that work here. And so I went to a website called 11 Labs, and I uploaded the PDF of the menu, and I created a voice agent in 5 seconds that basically was able to take bookings and look at what was on the menu. And as I was demonstrating it by talking to it, I said, one of my party is lactose intolerant. What can you do for the menu? And it told me in real time how the menu could be altered. I didn't train it. All I gave it was the PDF of the menu, and I was blown away with what it can do. So you can also use AI as a decision maker. If you run a small business, you don't have a lot of people you can rely on to talk about for advice. But what about if you've heard some rumblings that your communication style with your team is not the best? So why not use AI to run some previous emails and communications through AI and say, well, how can I be a better communicator? I think also if we have AI on the org chart, very soon, board members are going to be virtual. We're going to have one AI board member who is going to give all their opinion on what you should do, and it'll provide advice. So I think very soon you should start using AI as a decision maker. This brings me to where AI is getting much smarter. And what I'm going to show you next is something that has really come out in the last 3 or 4 months. It's fairly new. It's called reasoning. So let's look at a physics problem, a simple one. So assume the law of physics on Earth. A small strawberry is put into a normal cup. The cup is placed upside down on the table. Someone then takes the cup and puts it inside a microwave. Where's the strawberry now? Explain your reasoning step by step. Who knows where the strawberry is? It's on the table because gravity's at work and it fell out. So I thought, wonder how AI would reason this question. So I pulled up ChatGPT 4.0. I gave it the question. It got it fairly wrong because it didn't understand that by inverting the cup, that meant that gravity came into play. So its final answer was, the strawberry's in the microwave. Well, that's wrong. So what I then did was I changed the model up the top left. Instead of using ChatGPT 4.0, I used ChatGPT 1.0, which is their reasoning model. And I asked the same question. What the reasoning models do, and there are other models that use this as well, it thinks more deeply. It takes longer to look at the problem at hand, lifting the cup, pondering the situation. And this took 22 seconds to work out the correct answer, which I thought was quite a while. You've all heard of DeepSeek, the Chinese AI tool that dropped $600 billion of NVIDIA stock price value a few weeks ago. Well, I thought, okay, so I'm going to give this to DeepSeek as well. Did it in 6 seconds. So these reasoning models are getting smarter and faster and cheaper, and you're going to see this as an option when you're looking at solving problems. You can use AI as your leadership coach. As I said before, if you're not quite sure about your communication style or you've got questions, you can use someone who is not going to judge you and knows more and more about you. So think about using AI to make decisions in your business. And if you like playing with numbers, forecasting is another obvious one, but some people may not be aware that you can start using this to do if-then analysis. Now, in a small business audience, I want to actually share with you some of the tools that I use to get my work done. Some you'll know and we're using all the time, like, for example, document review with Copilot. For our panel coming up, this is the briefing notes I was sent by the organisers, so I ran it through Copilot for some suggested answers. So we'll see whether those answers come up next. The other one I really like is Otter.ai. Who's used Otter? Otter is brilliant, but there's probably a hidden feature you're not aware of. What Otter can do is actually record meetings, or I can upload podcasts as I have here. So not only has it given me the meeting summary, over here, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, you can actually talk to Otter. So at Otter, who spoke the most? At Otter, give me some key concepts. The book I talked about before features 60 podcast guests. I haven't got time to go through 60 hours of podcast. So for each one of those interviews, I uploaded to Otter and I started asking it questions. Give me the 5 key takeaways. Where was the person talking about quantum computing? It saved me weeks, and I wrote the book in 6 weeks because I was able to use AI to go through all that data. Market analysis. Now, I used Perplexity before to find Wally. I love Perplexity. It has actually replaced Google. I no longer Google, I perplex, if that's a noun, or a verb rather. But what I love about it, it shows all of its reasoning. And when it comes up with some answers, it shows where all the links are and all the sources. And I think Perplexity is going to really challenge Google search. So if you're not using Perplexity, I would suggest you have a look at it. And my favorite one is Notebook LM. Who here's heard Notebook LM by Google? Not many, okay. One of the sleepers here. So Notebook LM allows you to upload specific files. So here I uploaded the PDF of the book and I started asking it questions. And being the curious person I am, I saw on the right-hand side, it could give me an audio overview. So I thought, okay, I'll click the button. And in 5 minutes, it produced a podcast that's 31 minutes long with an AI-generated host. And let's have a listen to what it's produced.
So we're going to dig into what he really means by this whole digital curiosity thing, why it should matter to you.
Businesses led by digitally curious people are, well, seriously outperforming everyone else.
They're not just keeping up, it sounds like. They're gaining a real edge.
Exactly.
He even has this concept, he calls it the Starbucks test. Have you ever noticed how you'll be like overhearing people at a coffee shop and suddenly everyone's talking about some new tech? That's your cue.
You don't want to have to read it all. You can actually have a podcast guest chat about it. Or if your learning style is listening rather than reading, or you've got some manual you've got to have in there as well. There's so many things you can do with it. This is just a version 1. The next version will have my voice or your voice. And in fact, one version, I could actually interrupt it and ask it questions. So these tools out there are getting smarter and smarter. Which leads me to the use of responsible use of AI. And the title of the talk includes the word deepfakes, and most people know what deepfakes are. So I want to actually explain how we should be aware of deepfakes and how we can use them for good and how they'll be using for bad. And if we cast our mind back to the year 2000, every year the late Queen would do a Christmas address and Channel 4 would have an alternate view, an alternate message. And this particular year in 2020, Channel 4 decided to make a deepfake of the Queen. Let's have a listen.
For nearly 70 years, I have kept a tradition of speaking to you at Christmas on behalf of myself, your Queen, and all at Channel 4. I trust you will have the very merriest of Merry Christmases.
So 4 years ago, that took 6 weeks and hundreds of thousands of pounds to do. And it wasn't actually the Queen's deepfake voice, it was Deborah Stevenson. So these days, you can actually use off-the-shelf tools to do that. So here is my deepfake, AI Andrew. I stood in front of a camera for 9 minutes. This is from Veed. There are a number of other companies that do this as well. So if I don't want to put the green screen up and re-record something, I can actually have AI Andrew do that for me. And now we're seeing even smarter video tools. So now from OpenAI, they have a tool called Sora, which has now become available in the UK. And so you can upload a photo, a video, or you can use a text prompt. So what I did here is I uploaded my headshot and I said, put me on stage in front of 1,000 people talking about AI. You'll also see some of the spelling is off. But this was generated in about 30 seconds. It's okay, but you're now able to generate what could be broadcast quality video just by using a text prompt. Which leads me to some of the bad uses of AI. A couple of years ago, I heard Stephen Fry at an AI conference talk about how his voice was used without his permission.
Here's a short extract of me performing the commentary for a film about a Dutch resistance group's fight against the Nazis.
14th of May, 1940. Germany invades the Netherlands. Reichskommissar Arthur Seyss-Inquart appoints SS Hauptsturmführer Ferdinand Aus der Funten to ensure that the Netherlands is cleansed of Jews.
I said not one word of that. It was a machine. Yes, it shocked me. They used my reading of just 7 audiobooks, the Harry Potter novels, and from that data set, an AI of my voice was created, and it made that new narration. What I played you included, as you heard, a variety of German and Dutch names and general vocabulary. Hauptsturmführer, for example, Arthur Seyss-Inquart. All those names and all those words, of course, are not in Rowling's books.
Cloning is pretty much there. Video's on its way, but voice is pretty close. So again, being the curious soul I am, I thought, can I clone my own voice? So 11 Labs, I mentioned them before. Let's see how close my voice clone is to what you're hearing right now. Hi everyone. Yes, this is really me. It's AI Andrew. Pretty convincing, isn't it? So you can do that today. And in fact, I've used it multiple times where I've mangled the name of a client or something. So rather than re-recording it, I've actually just used AI Andrew. But that leads me to a real problem because now people are being scammed. The Italian finance defense minister, someone tried to ring as his voice and tried to scam people. The CEO of Ferrari was also deep-faked and they tried to extort money out of him. And last January, Arup, the big engineering firm, someone in Hong Kong basically sent $25 million in 15 separate transactions because they thought on a deepfake video call it was the CFO in London. So those of you that sat down because you haven't got two-factor authentication turned on, and I jokingly said you're going to get hacked, this is what's going to happen. If you don't have 2FA on your Gmail, someone's going to hack in there and they're going to sit there for weeks. You won't know that they're there. They will look through places you visited, names of your kids, dog, places you like to travel, and then one day they will clone your voice if it's worth their while, and someone you love will get a phone call in a panic asking for money. And because they know everything about you, it must be you, so you'll send the money. So the next thing I'm going to say is the one thing that everyone remembers from my talks. You need a family password. To beat the crooks, we need a low-tech way of basically beating them. So you need a phrase or a word that only your family knows, or if you're working in a team password. Don't email it, don't share it on WhatsApp. Have this family or team password available so when you get that strange phone call or WhatsApp, you actually know that it's not them. So just be aware of that, and please turn on two-factor. So we're going to talk about this a little bit in the panel coming up, but there's the elephant in the room about the true cost of AI. One of the costs is environmental. AI uses a lot of energy. One research paper I read said basically that if you do 20 to 50 ChatGPT searches, it's like pouring half a litre of water down the drain, because that's the amount of water that's required to cool all of these servers. And Microsoft has said they're going to reopen 3 Mile Island, one of the 3 Mile Island plants in the US, because they need more energy. So the challenge is going to be, all the time we're doing these searches, we need to be aware of the environmental impacts. And the costs don't just stop at environmental. Is your data in a format that we can actually read? Is it where you can actually feed an AI system? Is it data you have the rights to own? What about training your staff? They're a bit nervous about AI, so how do we actually get them digitally curious and using that as well? Well, the great news is that in every organisation, in every room, we have all the answers. I think in every team, there are actually 2 tribes. There are the going digital, some of you represented here today from that stand up, sit down. You are experienced executives, small business owners, but your digital skills are developing. Then we have the born digital. Their first toy was a smartphone. They live and breathe this stuff. They know how it works and they're hungry to tell you what you should do next. So the way to bring them together is to run a hackathon. Many of you may have run hackathons. They're normally used to solve technical problems. But imagine getting those 2 tribes together to basically say, what should we do around AI? What are the opportunities? What are the risks? And where should we start? So as the actionable futurist, I want to give you 5 things you can take away and do today, tomorrow, next week. The first is be more digitally curious. Some of those things that I've mentioned at the beginning of my talk, start doing those so that it encourages you to try more things. Look at 5 AI tools, some of the tools I mentioned. In fact, the next slide is a QR code that has all the tools I mentioned listed. Try some of these tools to see how they might help your business, because everyone is a little bit different. Look at the high impact areas in your business. Is it in customer service? Is it in forecasting? Is it in making decisions that you can actually deploy AI today? Develop this family or team password. It's so simple to do. Most people say that they go away and they do this the next thing they do, and it's a smart thing to have in your back pocket. And finally, why not run a hackathon? And people asked me yesterday, they said, well, how do we do that? Well, actually get the Born Digital to organise it. A couple of things will happen. First of all, they'll say, my goodness, my company's so hip, they're doing a hackathon, and we get to organise it. And then you'll see them come together, and the Going Digital will then see how the Born Digital think, and especially around AI being so new and so busy and all the things that are happening, you're going to have some great ideas come out of it. So a bunch of resources I can help you with. I've got a podcast called Digitally Curious that Ollie mentioned, the book, and I'm also doing a self-paced learning module. This is the QR code you need. Scan it and bookmark the page. I don't know why other speakers don't do this, because this will lead you to tens of resources, all the tools I've mentioned, podcasts, books you can read, ways to contact me as well. So I encourage you to use those resources. I encourage you to stay curious, and I encourage you to use AI for good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. And Andrew, come and join me back on stage. And I think you'll get a round of applause just for joining me back up here. Andrew Grill, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Ollie.
Awesome, thank you. My first question is, I don't know if your schedule allows, but can we get you to stay for the panel discussion? Is that okay? You're in for that. Brilliant, thank you. We've got a couple of minutes. If there's a burning question, there's one there and here as well. Hopefully we can run a mic down to you. We'll get it. Thank you, Latifa. Thank you. Stand by. Let's take them both together.
They've got to be curious questions, though. Very curious questions only.
Super curious. Stand by. No pressure. All right. Thank you, Latifa. Just in the second row and then the first. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rashmi Dubey, and I'm curious about what you said about the ESG side, the environmental. What I'm finding is a lot of people that are users, new users of AI, are saying, well, it's the provider's responsibility to do it. Well, I would disagree, but I'm curious to see what you think and how we can improve as even small businesses.
I think we need to be aware. How many people were a bit shocked about what I said about the environmental impacts of AI? Yeah, quite a few people aren't aware of it. So part of it is awareness. A few years ago, everyone was talking about crypto, and we know that crypto is going to burn a lot of... So we're now aware of that as well. So don't do silly queries. Make good use of AI. Look at providers. I know we're going to talk with Microsoft. They have a really good ESG agenda, and they are trying very hard to go net zero and doing all those sort of things. So they're taking it seriously. Make sure your provider is taking it seriously.
All right, and forgive me, I'll ask you to hold your question because I will make time in our panel session and we'll come to you. For now, Andrew, stand by because we'll get our guests on in just a couple of minutes. But for now, the brilliant Andrew Grill, thank you.